anymore. Um, like everybody says they work with business professionals, and I'm like, have you ever worked with anyone busy in your fucking life? Like I look at these trainers and I go, you've no idea what busy even means. Like I've worked with Fortune 500 company owners, and I'm like, they don't have time to do this shit, man. Like
Yeah.
low carb is so easy, you know?
Yeah.
And they're not like
Yeah.
Martin here on the treadmill with loads of muscle mass we want to protect. Like, what you doing? You know? Um, Shona, how are we?
Good. I'm just finishing my last set and then I'll be on the camera.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear. Um, Kane, how are we, dude? Let me just see if anyone else is jumping in. You there? Good. In an Uber. Where you heading? Heading home from the work. You got an Uber to work. You sit there moaning about money. You get Ubers to work. You have a car or walk. You're not that far from the gym, are you? Okay, cool. So I've got a rental that needed dropping back. Okay. Um, just whilst we're getting people started, we'll kickstart it. So for V, welcome by the way. You obviously jumped in on 10 minutes of the last call yesterday. This is your first proper full call. So you'll get this when we come into today's one-on-one later on. But essentially, how the schedule runs across the week, you also have your monthly one-to-one calls, which will go through clients and stuff like this. But the calls across the week, Monday and Friday, is our main syllabus. So everything I feel like
Yeah.
a coach needs to be fucking unreal, and it goes on a loop. So you'll experience. If don't worry if you've dropped in halfway through, it'll all come back around. So we've had a number of people drop in at different times, and they get back around, they do it again. They're like, oh my god, I get it so much more than last time. That's part of the point.
Okay.
Wednesday mornings are deep dive lectures. So normally we have a one topic per month. We'll be going really, really hard, and then one more practical session. But soon we're getting Mr. Dean Hammond coming in doing some performance stuff, which will also be really cool on the Wednesdays. Let me let Frizzle in. So that's our Wednesday calls, and then these calls are essentially open Q&As, open lab sessions. Bring your questions, bring your clients, bring case studies, anything you feel you need help with. But we always start these calls with a bit of a status check, like where you're at with your clients, seeing where things are. So for people here, just drop into the chat for me how many clients you've currently got on your roster. And Frizzo, is this your first or second round table? Second, cool. So you know the drill at the start. Perfect. Um, Kane is like 10. Kane, that's a good number. And then, assuming it's not 10 people doing once a week, so that's all right. It's 11, V11. V, are all those 11 clients doing 3 times a week? UP, they normally are, right?
Some of them do.
Okay. So you're doing probably
Yeah.
25 to 30 sessions a week.
Yeah. I was doing like 48 sessions a week. Few weeks before I went to
Yeah, yeah.
India.
Well, welcome
So
to August.
so as your one of the reels mentioned, the August was one of the worst months for the trainers.
Always is. Always is, man.
So I experienced that somewhat. Six clients dropped off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had a few. I've had I my
Yeah,
September's worse for me because it's
yeah,
everyone panics in August and leaves in September for the coaches.
yeah,
So I'm a month
yeah,
delayed. In the same way that
yeah.
my February's the best month of the year, I think, for coaches, and I tend to have a great March.
No.
That's normally the case because they have a bit of extra cash, and like, oh, I'll buy Simon, like that tends to be the same. Um, it's cool. And on that note, actually, let's all share in this just to make people feel a little bit better. If you've had any drop-offs this month, tell us how many. I think this is an important thing. So Shona's had 5. I've had 4. 4? 4 and 2 pauses for a month. They'll definitely be back though, because they will get charged in November. We've struck a deal. But yeah, 4 and 2 pauses, 4. There's like 1. That's good. That's a good mate. That's a good August. Right? So like, if you can see here that, and I'm assuming there's a few more people that haven't put stuff in yet, the fact that everyone's experiencing it, no matter the level of trainer you are. And I said this on a reel recently, and I think this is really important. Like, especially as you're growing, is not focus on drop-off numbers. Drop-off numbers are like clients focusing on scale weight, right? A client like dropping on the scale, I've gained a pound, but they've gained over the course of like 6 months, they've lost 20 kilos. Who gives a fuck about the pound this morning? It's the same thing about retention numbers. I'll tell you about a student of mine. I don't mind if he comes back and watches back. Lorenzo, right? Like Lorenzo still to this day panics about drop-offs, right? But when Lorenzo started me, he had about 15 clients. So if he had 4 people drop off out of 15, that's a bigger percentage of his client roster than if he has like 60 clients and 4 drops off. What is he focusing on? I've had 4 drop-offs this month. What's going wrong? What you're not focusing on is 56 clients stayed with you. So if you had 4 of 100 drop off, that's 4%. If you have 4 of 10, that's 40%. Totally different thing. So it's the metrics you should be looking for. For example, the UP, right? We focused on results per new client allocation. So with every 4 clients, you should get 1 holy fuck result. So
100%,
that's the first thing you should track. The second thing you track is how long, on average, clients stay with you. So if you've got clients that's for in person, I think 12 to 18 month average. You have some less and some more, but if your average is 12 to 18 months, I think you're in a good place, right? And then if they drop off, everyone has a life cycle. I don't believe, and I'd like to think you do, but I don't believe any of you are going to be with me in 20 years. If you are, fucking epic. We're going to go on a ride. But everyone has a life cycle, right? Like V's just come back. V was an actual coaching client of mine, and he dropped off. I don't hold against him. That's normal. And he's back. And that's the point. We have had Kevin come back to SMU relatively recently, right? People come back. So that's the one thing. And the second thing, if you're online, I think 6 to 9 months. If your average client retention is 6 to 9 months, then you're in a pretty good space. So once you look at that, if your retention is less than them on average, that's when you need to think, what am I doing? And the 2 things you're probably not doing, you're either not getting the results that you're asking, or there is something about your communication that needs work. That is literally the 2 reasons why people drop off. Or, and here's the third one, which I think I'm going to go into showing this point, is they've graduated. Now, graduated, I'll come to your question in a sec, Kane. Graduated has two prongs to it, though. One is a look inward prong, and one is a big pat on the back prong. If a client says, I came to you to lose 20 kilos, I have lost 20 kilos, I feel better in myself, and I can manage it well, I think I can manage this on my own, you have done your job. Don't look at that like a drop-off. New house, having a baby made redundant, not a reflection of your service if they generally can't afford it. Exactly, right? Often people will the problem is that people peddle the line, I can't afford it, regardless whether that is true or not, right? So it's very difficult. And I think, obviously, in those cases, they've given reasons. I think that's probably fair. Let me let Carol in. The other thing with graduation is, the question you want to ask yourself if they graduate is, like, if that happened next time, what's next for that person? Because what you should always do with a graduating client is set them goals like they were going to stay, and then see what they say at the end of the call. If they leave, it's no reflection on you because they've graduated, you've got what they came for, you've done your job. But you want to be able to get a few that are going, oh, actually, that looks really cool. I don't really know how to do that on my own. Shona, can you help me do that? Yes, I can. I've had that all the time. All the time. Where people adamantly said they were going to stay, and I'm like, we're going to leave. And I'm like, cool. Let's jump on a call. Let's make sure you're all right for the next 3 months. We get on a call. We plan the next 3 months out, and they go, oh, actually, maybe I need help with that. And then they stay for 3 months. But that's the thing. Kane, go for your question first, and then I'll go Frizo, and then we'll do our usual status check.
Well, I think to go with that on the communication, I think like goal setting could be something to maybe go over. So like how to potentially long-term goal plan with people.
Well, you want me to go through that today?
Yeah, if we can.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
I used to use your sheet that like mapped it all out for people, but now I use an app, so I don't know if it would be worthwhile using both
I think it's
to.
the only one of my Google Sheets I think is worth like sometimes, depending on the app, pairing. Because I think it shows visual. You don't really need to keep an eye on it again. You do it just to set the goal, and then you just use the app to track the goal. Whereas I think if a client's going to log into it, like I wouldn't have the spreadsheet tracker alongside the app because then they're like, am I going to the app for this or am I going to the spreadsheet for this? The goal setting one, you don't need to. Roadmap is another one, as Martin says. The roadmap is really, really important. If any of you are not using a timeline or a roadmap, you should. Do you have a timeline at UP? You didn't when I
We
was there.
do with the body profit itself. You can use the timeline.
Oh, okay, because there wasn't a timeline feature when I left.
No, they are added right now. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
how
good.
many weeks
That's
it
good.
is? Like, yeah,
That's
yeah,
really good. I was about to say that's
yeah.
one thing they're missing. So yeah, so like, yeah, the communication thing, right? I think that, and we'll go through goal setting. I'll go through this question first, and I'll open the floor to goal setting talk. But as regards to communication thing, the biggest bits of advice I would have: don't mansplain, right? And this includes the girls. So Shona, this includes trainers are great at mansplaining, right? What we often do during doing a transformation, I'm not sleeping well. Magnesium. And like you don't know why they're not sleeping well, right? So I'm not accusing you of mansplaining in life, but coaches will often come with strategy before they come with listening, right? And I don't think you do this at all, but coaches in general do it, guys and girls, where they'll be like, someone will come with like a problem. Oh, I struggle with the weekends. Have you tried low calorie spirit mixers? Have you tried planning your food on Saturday? Have you tried not going out? Have you tried eating beforehand? I'm like, have you asked what is it they struggle with on the weekend? Like people want to be listened to. If you come in with strategy, you're just reeling off things. The client never feels listened to. What's mansplaining? Do you know what? It's a thing that guys are accused of often by women, and I have no idea what it means. I was hoping you would give me a great answer to this. I think a mansplain. I think when women blame men for
Well,
mansplaining, I would always go over it like when a guy tries to like if a woman's upset and a guy tries to help them, and it's like, oh, stop mansplaining. I just need you to listen. That's what I would define it as. Like, because we are problem solvers
it's
naturally.
more if it's always more if a guy dumbed it down.
We're just trying to
It's where
simplify.
guys dumb it down for girls because they don't think they'll understand the concept of something.
I mean, that's slightly more on the nose. I just think I always think about whenever I've had a mansplaining comment. Kane, I don't understand where you have the worst Wi-Fi city in the world. I'm going to mute you for a second, dude,
It
because
is.
I missed all of that. All of that. Yeah. We'll come back to whatever probably slightly controversial point that was about to be. But yes, so like that's point one and two. And this it always sounds condescending when people say this, right? But I'm talking to myself as much as anyone else. We have two ears and one mouth for a reason. So the problem is with like goal setting chats, especially when clients say they want to drop off. If clients say they want to drop off, always get them on a call. Or if in person, meet them. Don't try and change their mind over WhatsApp. And it's not just you, Kane, before you go pointed, like everyone does this. Everyone tries to do this. Everybody. You're not the first person I've had this conversation with, right? And what if they don't want to call? Well, there's a reason they don't want to call. Because they're not convinced in their answer themselves. So then you just have to be asked questions. But the point of the matter is that you want to kind of be able to just listen to them. And you're not trying to go, this is what I think you should do. It's like, okay, run me through what's going on. Really, really open questions. Let them open up. Because what they're more likely, if they haven't finished their results, what they're likely feeling is they see a barrier. They can't see a way around this barrier. And you listening to them will make you find avenues to help solutions. For the sake of argument, I'm going traveling. I don't think I can make this work. Or I've got a lot of work events this month. There's no point coaching. Where they're coming from is, I can't be perfect, so I'm going to cancel the coaching and not bother. We all know that that is useless, because that, like, if they only needed coaching when they could be perfect, then they wouldn't need coaching, right? But what you need to do is allow them. Let's say, okay, I've got a lot of business events this month. Okay, cool. Run me through those business events. Put them in the diary, put them in the timeline. Okay. And run me through where you're going with each of these. Do you know? Do you have any control over the restaurant? Like, you just keep asking open questions until you solve the problem on the call. And at no point have you gone, hey, do you want to stay? It's like, I am trying to solve this problem by listening to you and just finding out, making you realize, oh, actually, this is not a big deal. Right? But they're thinking catastrophizing in their head. So you want to get open questions. If they don't want to call, there's two things to this, right? There's two parts to this. One is something you're not in your control. One is, if you generally don't want to call, you ask open questions via WhatsApp and get them to open up. Also, you want to ask, if someone's not wanting a call with you, have you created a environment where people are not comfortable opening up when things are going wrong? I would like to think, if I offered any of you guys a call, you're not going to go, oh, man, I'm not going to have that call because Simon's going to judge me. I hope not. So, like, that is, like, have you created an environment where people aren't willing to tell you they're giving up? That's the thing. And then that goes back to open questions. Have you been a bit more forceful? Should we do this? Right? Like, for example, okay, on one of the message screenshots you sent me recently, one of those like, maybe we should work together. Like, that's a very in-your-face sales pitch. It's like, hey, buy from me. Whereas, like, we could, like, hey, run me through what you're struggling with. And what is it about that you're struggling with? Okay. And what have you tried before? And I know you asked these questions. I know I just got a snippet, right? So I'm not saying this is how you communicate. This is like, if I'm looking at this as a snapshot, not knowing the rest of you here. But, like, how can we make people talk themselves into it? And you do need to put out an offer, right? If this was on Instagram DMs, this would be slightly different, because at some point you need to go, hey, have you thought about this? But if this is someone leaving, right? I know that wasn't, but I'm just using it as a hypothetical rather than actual talking about the situation at hand. That's the thing. Those are the things to think about. Frizzo, before we get into goal setting, what was your question?
Yeah, okay. So,
yeah, go ahead.
So what do you define the lifespan of a hybrid client? So most of the clients that I have are like, they coming once a week with me in person, as they train on themselves.
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you know what? I would go, I've never really thought about it because I've worked with so many people who are online, and I did, many years at UP where we only did in person. We do online, but no one really does online. So we're probably looking, I've taken that data from tons of people. I don't really know too much about hybrid coaches. I would say if you can keep people roughly the same amount of time as online, I think you'd be pretty happy, because it's pretty much online.
Yeah, so most of the people, they stay in the lifespan of like an in person.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
I'm only in business like 1 year. So,
and if you've kept most of your clients, that's good.
Yeah,
that's really good. Like, that's the thing, right? So but then this is the reason why I say, like, you've got to look at both the results per new client allocation ratio, and you've got to look at the retention. The reason why you look at both is because you'll often see clients that will stay with you because they just like you. You've become the renter friend. So it's very easy to kind of have clients that are there with you 3 to 5 years. And I know you're not a weight loss coach, but for the example of most of the guys here that have not lost a pound, but they're like, oh, I love my Thursdays with Shona. And that's great. And I'm all for that. And I hope Shona has clients that generally want to see her on Thursdays. But, like, we kind of want to make sure they've had a result first, or working towards a result, so they know you're the trainer. Because and this, if you build a business where no one loses any weight but they fucking love you, and you make loads of money, then who am I to judge, right? You don't get crazy transformations at things like F45. But what have F45 done? And I'm stealing a conversation now with Jordan Shallow about this, actually, so this is not my analogy. What is he optimized for? They've optimized for community. We always talk about optimizing is like, this is the perfect angle for the lat. Well, F45 have optimized for community. They have done that better than anyone, right? So like, so I'm not judging if you don't have any major transformations, but people stay with you. But often that might affect one, how well people stay with you. And as a coach, you end up in this weird limbo territory where you just kind of like lose the purpose and the drive to do your job because you just kind of going, God, here's Steve again, and then there's Jenny, and they're not doing anything. And that's all of your day. All of your day feels pointless. I had this so many times in my career when I was like, I was a junior at UP, I used to get tons of results. And then all of a sudden, because I got results, people stayed with me. And that's great. And I love them. And after a while, most of them just got to the point where they were coming in because it was part of their week. And they liked it. And they felt better at work. And they were stronger. And I got to this point where I was like, oh my God, I feel so jealous of all these new kids coming in and getting all these results because I see the same people. I don't get any new clients anymore because I have no space. And very quickly, I started losing the love for the job because I wasn't getting excited. I'm the therapist. Yeah, I've been there too. I actually dropped a client yesterday, so much I know. But for 6 years, she's been negative. I'm too happy for that now. But like, I don't normally agree with firing a client, but like 6 years, like I think we can make allowances for 6 years, you know. And if you've got people coming in the doors, it's up to you. It's your business.
Yeah, but I also have a question, Simon. So basically, I don't sell hybrid training, but most of the people they come to me, and because of the price, they just pick once a week. So maybe that's also a problem. I don't know. So
maybe how much you charge them?
300 euros per month, and that's for one time a week. So 75 euros without taxation.
Okay, and what's the average going rate for PTs where you are?
65, 70.
Okay.
You have people that do it for 35, but you have people that do it for 50. You have people that do it for 85. So yeah,
okay.
Nobody really does like, or nobody. That's a big statement, but most of the people, they are like just general body transformation coaches or just general. They don't pick a niche. They don't like do strength conditioning type of things. They don't do performance side of things.
Yeah, so the difficult thing with strength conditioning, when you're looking, unless you've got in with a team, is that you have to find people that are willing to put their money down and find a real why. It's a little bit easier with body composition training to charge higher rates because there's an element of, again, I'm not a business guy, so maybe I'm not the best guy for this question, but like if a lot of people feel bad about the way they look in themselves in the mirror, they may have had health conditions because of the way they look, they may have had like not been able to pick up a partner, they may feel lonely. All of these things fuel into the message of why they're going to part ways with 75 euros. Whereas if someone's coming in going, I do football as a hobby and I'd like to be better at it, and that's cool, but it's not like they're like, you fucking need this, mate.
Yeah, that is also, I need to be true. Need to be honest. So a couple clients of mine, they are more like friends. So I also like as a friend service, and they also don't have much money. I trade them for lower rate.
Yes.
You
could do if you like say for you did 50 if they did twice or 3 times a week, and then maybe
I do personal training. So basically they pay. They do like 60 hours, 60 euros an hour, and they come like it's a duo personal training. So they come once a week.
Okay.
They cannot afford more. They are young, like 18, 19.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, right? If you're looking at younger kids, and you're also new to business, right? And I think this is a big thing for people as well. Like understand where you are in the space. Like if you're younger in general, or you are if you're younger in general or newer to the game, like it'll come. Like, and I know being patient is a shit answer because no one wants to hear it. But the more you do it, the more experience you get, the more results you get, the more authoritative and confident you come across, the easier it is to charge the money you're looking to charge, right? I charge $297 a month for this, right? And I started online training at, well, if 150 on my own and probably about 100 at UP. So like I've worked up over time. As I've become.
But what do you do? Like how many hours you spend during the online training then? So how many calls, for example?
I don't know. I've been doing online training since before online training was a thing. I did online training at UP probably a decade ago.
Of course, you do the check-ins, so you have contact during the week, maybe via a message or something. But like a real call, like you, for example, you do what you said last time. You do a quarterly call. and that's the big call. I do a monthly call, that's a big call. Like
Yeah.
that's, and you do the programming and just the contact on WhatsApp.
Yeah, my online coaching is that essentially. Like I'll have, I have an onboarding call, I have a monthly call, and I have a quarterly call. I don't do too much of it these days, right? My focus is you guys. But we're not too dissimilar. We do a monthly call, and then we do touch points across the week. But my touch points are just here with everybody, or if you have questions. So I just make the touch points less admin heavy for me. But you couldn't do that with online coaching because like people wouldn't like turn up to multiple calls a week.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah. Makes you look busy and you can get results as well if you're only in business for a year. Exactly. I think it depends on your system. So I think it is hard. I think you'll aim for any social proof you get. That could just be a screenshot of WhatsApp's going, hey, I fucking love that session. Like I've got a bunch of screenshots, like almost 100 screenshots that I've taken of people saying, this course is amazing. And I'm going to put them into a collage of a post very, very soon. So it's like, anything you get. It doesn't have to be stand up before and afters, but anything that can make you go. If you work with a person that works at a high level, I goes, have you got a photo of you playing football? And just like start posting it. So when people start to associate you, they associate you with, oh, you work with that club and that club and that club. I've trained people in football and wrestling and gymnastics and insert these things here. Like, how do you create this authority around you? Like before you jump to the call, I was talking to Martin. I've got a call with my web designers after this, and I realized like on my website it doesn't have as seen on the BBC, as seen in South China Morning Post, as seen in the Express, as worked with people from the boy band 5. Why are these things not on my website? That's fucking stupid, Simon. In the same way as like as you build confidence, how can you make yourself seem like the go-to guy? And when you do that, it's going to be easier to sell €75 packages. For another great comparison to this, V works at Ultimate Performance. Ultimate Performance have gyms around the world. Ultimate Performance have some of the best results in the industry. Also, they've been around for so many years and people come to them knowing them for their quality. UP charge about £140 an hour. And people just pay it. Thousands down. I had a client paying £2,000 a month. 3 times a week. And I had multiple clients pay that, actually. Tens of clients pay that. So it's like, it's the authority piece. But you work up to that over time. And, and understand, like, it's so easy to come online these days and go on Instagram and see people making 10 grand months and thinking, why am I not doing that? And, I said this to Kane the other day. It's like, if you're making £3,000 a month, you're making more than nurses. You're making more than builders. You're making more than most retail people. And I'm like, you're making £3,000 a month. You're doing pretty well. Right? Like, remember, Instagram's the highlight reel. 10 grand a month, my clients in that. Yeah, that's 1 of 100. Like 5 people in a month maybe do well off a business mentor. It doesn't mean the business mentor's bad. It just means it's not normal. We have this weird perception of normal in this industry that everyone is balling in and making 6 figures. Fucking bullshit. Sorry, that's my rant of the day. But yeah, I know that's be patient is a shit answer, Friso. I appreciate that.
No. But it's not a shit answer. I know it's reality. I know this is reality, but I'm just confident that like.
It doesn't mean you can't, right? You could, if you went on the outreach and you sent out leaflets and you went door to door and you talked to everyone in your gym, you'd make a fucking bunch of people willing to pay £75 for your service. And then the more you do it,
why not? Like if I can get them results and they come once a week, yeah, it's okay. Still, you have a higher hour weight for yourself, so
yeah,
you work less, right? So
yeah, exactly. If you can build a business on hybrid coaching, that's fucking nice, isn't it? It's like,
let's go.
It's not a bad thing. Let's go. I'm not in the gym all day. It's it's brilliant. So again, so we've got how many people as we scroll back up. At the people we put in the chat, how many clients we've got in the business, tell me how many people have a clear goal and how many are on track and off track. And then I'll just open the floor to everybody else. Sweet. Cool. Yeah, 9 hybrid. What we got, guys? 100% of a goal, 15 out of 23 on track. Okay, cool. We've got 8 people to work on, sorry. And again, as I said, 1 and 4 is the ratio we're looking for. All on track. That's fantastic. 20 on track with goals, 10 bumblebees. And we said this last week, right? They're all the bumblebees are the long termers, right? Do you have is any of those 10 relatively new bumblebees? Have you got any younger bees?
Nah, they got clients that have been with me for 6+ years, but they're fit and healthy. They're not
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah. And I think the thing with them is always just try and push a strength goal. Like even if they don't care about the outside stuff, things that you control on the session. But like that's a different kettle of fish. When you're dealing with people for 6 years, that says more about you as a coach in a good way than not having goals, right? That's always going to happen eventually. So that's good. Sweet. So floor's open, guys. Anyone else got any questions? We want to go through goal setting. Anyone else got anything in particular? Or do you want me to go through that? Okay, let me go through goal setting.
I was gonna say, mate, go. I'm happy to go through that, but I was just noticing a very big split off between my guys that are on track, on target, doing really fucking well, crushing it, and then those other 8. Like it's such a fucking wide gap, and I don't know. I'm trying to maybe cherry pick it or have a look at my own. Like we spoke about the onboarding and everything. It's getting torn into. Going to get better. Like I've got my blood pressure machine with me today. I've got an intake of a new guy who I'm going to do it. I didn't do that. So that's going to be something additional for health metrics to look at, which will be cool.
So when you're saying there's a big gap, is it that let me just get your numbers up again. Is it that 15 people are really fucking on it and really committed, and then 8 people are like, I just can't be fucked, it's really bad?
Yeah, it's a very wide gap. The 15 people that are on it are getting I posted results yesterday. I've got posted this morning. I've got post tomorrow. Like they're all getting top quality results, 20, 30 kilos off, 10, 12 inches off their waist, strength goes through the fucking roof. They're crushing it. Okay. And I'm like, awesome. And then I flip to another person and they are just absolutely, they can't even get to the gym. Their life's a fucking mess.
Okay.
And I'm like, shit, where do I go with this person? It's very, very different. And I don't know if I'm doing something that I need to be as a better coach to understand that. And I do think that's a large component of it. But the gap there is so big between guys that I set up and program and drive and absolutely fine. And then the other 8 of them are just they've got some results. Some of them are, 3-4 kilos off. They're a lot slower, which I think comes down to the different people. But yeah, man, it'd be interesting to know your thoughts on that.
There's an element of that. There's an element of it being there's differences in people. That's why we do the 1 in 4. There's always going to be people that are just not in that stage of change, right? So contemplation, pre-contemplation, contemplation, that sort of thing, action. People are just at a different stage of change. So we just need to be able to scale with that. There is an element of potentially stuff to learn. There always is. But I think this what you mentioned there is I've got all the blood pressure stuff. What could I do? There's going to be this, and it sounds really, really stupid, but it comes back down to that why component. And this is the same thing as I sort of was saying to Friso earlier on about it's harder to create a why with a performance athlete, because if you're not working with the big boys, then it's not their job on the line. It's like a fucking 5-a-side Saturday league. So with these clients, it's they want to lose 20 kilos, but the people that are doing really well probably have tapped into the reason why they want to lose fit.
It's very obvious for them. I know, that's very obvious from the consultations, and
So that's that and we'll come to some of the other stuff we can do. But when someone's really, really off, we always want to come back to this, because it's for sake of I was in the biggest training rut of my whole life for about 2 years until recently. What changed? Well, I changed and started wrestling practice. And what did that mean? It gave me a why, because I want to be better at it.
Yeah.
So now I've not missed a gym since I started it.
Awesome.
So it's my knowledge to training hasn't changed. What I've tracked hasn't changed. I'm still not nailing my nutrition. All that changed had a reason to want to get better in the gym. So it's that same thing. And so we want to come back to that. When we break down someone's why, right? When we talk about things, everyone talks about, and this is another thing I got from Jordan on the podcast, which I actually need to edit and put out today, is people talk about motivation. People talk about discipline, right? How do you spell discipline? Is it C?
DISICIEILN-E.
That, right? Don't judge me if it's wrong. I'm dyslexic as hell, right? And that's cool, right? And everyone talks about this stuff being is fleeting, right? We're never all going to be motivated all the time, and everyone talks about discipline being the answer. And Jordan made this great thing. No one talks about this.
Yeah, valid.
If you can make someone more inspired, you're going to make these much easier. Now, you're doing really well on that already because of what you're doing. But again, this is a double-sided thing, right? Because the people that are doing really well are probably super inspired by what you're doing. Oh, I really want to do what Martin's doing. And that's probably why they're so on it. Because they're like, fucking hell, he's doing really well. I want that. Fuck. These other people, these 8, may not care about that so much. So it could be down to, here's the thing it could be down to, right? We haven't found their why or what inspires them. So that is open questions. That is finding out what they want to do. It's not necessarily about the stuff. So you mentioned things like blood pressure, resting heart rate. That's good. But the other thing is going to be belief. And the last thing is going to be overwhelm. Right? So if you go, oh, I want to track this, and I'll track that, and I'll track this to try and get them to do something.
Yep.
If the problem is overwhelm, you just add it to that.
Yeah. I find that on a lot of them, they are super stressed, super overwhelmed, super worked out. And then we've had this conversation when I'm like, okay, regress. Like, even to the point where I'm just like, hey, just give me your 3 wins and what's your biggest struggle? Let's try and tackle this week. And then I still get fucking blanked. So it's like, fuck off.
Yeah. So, like, again, I think it's like, are these in-person clients or online?
Most of them are online. My in-person clients don't tend to struggle one bit. They smash it.
So here's and that's a really interesting point we can potentially look at.
Yeah.
Because it shows that if people are with you, they don't feel judged to speak to you. But online, how do we nurture this environment?
Yeah, I've got Dean Hammond's communication link fucking up ready to watch on my next
That's good.
on my next video, mate. So that's on my to-do list on my next walk.
Oh, that's cool. That'd be good. That'd be useful. So basically, it's like, okay, first off, and I know you don't do this, but this is a room full of people.
Yep.
Like whenever you look at things like food diaries, you're looking at accuracy, not perfection. So you want to make it very clear, like, I do not care if you have a glass of wine or a chocolate bar or a cheesecake. I just want you to track it. So
yeah, I do make that very obvious. Of like, guys, I'm not looking for perfection, but just give me some data to work with.
Yes, exactly that. So, and then it's a case of if they're feeling overwhelmed and stuff, it's like, how do we scale back their efforts without scaling back the results?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, okay, just do 6,000 instead. Just do 3,000 instead. Because eventually you go, well, I'm close to doing what I was doing already. What's the fucking point of this coaching thing? So what could we scale back? Well, first off, we can look at their diary, right? And see if we can help them a little bit fit in some stuff. And then it's like, okay, what coach are they? Again, put a 1 in the chat if you are consistent with the following. Post on your Instagram every day, 6 to 10 stories every day, 20 outreach messages per day, a daily email, and 15 comments on other people's posts. Put a 1 in the chat, you do those 5 things every day. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't.
That's a 2 for me, mate. That's about 50%. 2 for me as well.
Right? Now, why don't coach that? Because actually, if we look at those 5 things, you did those 5 things every day, we'd all make more money. All of us, including myself, right? Why don't we do that? Right? Now, it's a tapestry of things, right? Could be this why do we want the big business? Do we have a viewpoint of what the big business is going to be? Like, am I going to change as a person? Are people going to judge me? People who are wealthy are greedy, selfish pricks, or whatever your view about money is. Same thing, your clients might have a why of, yeah, but if I lose weight, people will look at me differently. My friends won't think of me the same way. My partner won't look at me the same way. So when we think of a why, it's the why we should do it. But also, we want to tap into questions like, what would change for you if you achieved this goal? And we want to see if they talk positively or negatively about that. If they grimace. These are the questions you want to sort of ask ourselves. But again, why do we have a bunch of 2s in there? Well, it's because coaches, and including myself, are really good at getting overwhelmed with all the things they think they should do and not being very good at prioritizing what's the most important things. You're on the business stuff. I see a lot of coaches, and you guys are better at it because people in this room are nearly always in this room, right? But I see coaches all the time that never make these calls live. Why? Because their life's all over the fucking shop, right? They spend 20 minutes setting up their fucking stream deck so they can fucking all these big pop-ups. But they don't do any outreach. They don't do any study. Right? And it's sort of that thing is like your clients won't know if steps, training, protein, calories, activity, you won't know what's priority. All of it seems super important when you tell them it. So now they're like, oh my God, I've got so much shit to do. So maybe it's just because of like, how do we strip it back to the most important things?
Mm.
Protein, calories, steps.
Mm.
Done. Like, so, and it might not be the case, right? So one thing is overwhelm. Strip it back to the most important things. Get the most from the least. Low carb diet, meal plan, steps. See you later, right? Belief. So we want to look at this question thing, right? How do we find out, do they believe they can achieve this goal? Because if you don't believe it, why bother?
I think that's valid as well, mate. I'm definitely thinking about maybe 2 or 3 clients out of that 5 straight away, all female, all definitely do not believe they can actually achieve the goal that we set out. And it's about trying to inspire, motivate, build them up a little bit, like throughout that. And it's been hard just trying to establish those first couple of wins. When they're in person, it was all right. And then they switch it online or they move and like they just go, the communication goes out the window no matter how hard I try, no matter how many systems I set up.
So I would start with a question there, something like, hey, like start really slow. Okay, run me through how the last, like when you do get a call or come to pop a call with them, run me through the last month's been since we last spoke. Really open-ended. Okay, what do you think's gone well? Okay. Anything you feel you need help with? Okay. If you don't mind me asking, what is it that makes you feel that you don't want to talk to them when things go wrong? Like, you get more on the nose. You ease them into the conversation. And then maybe ask the question, do you believe you can achieve this goal? If you say no, then we can get at the goal setting tracker again.
Yeah.
And, like, start painting that picture for them and working back.
Yeah.
And then, if you can ask questions about why they want to do this again, we can now go maybe work out what inspires them. So that blood pressure tracker and the resting heart rate stuff, really cool, right? If they're overwhelmed, useless. But if they don't care about body composition, but they want to be alive to see their grandkids, now we can play around with blood pressure. You should take blood pressure anyway, but now we can play around with these things more consistently.
That's one of the reasons as a health metric for people who are relating to that, so I can get them to buy in a little bit more. Like, this is where it sits right now. What this says this. And so it kind of takes a little bit more emotion away from it. It just looks at it from a data or a logical standpoint.
Yeah. Has any of you looked at Google Trends recently?
Not recently.
No. Functional health and health coaching is searched more. Functional health coaching is searched more now than fat loss.
Ooh.
So this is why if you start looking at things like people learning functional blood work, look at the rise of Brian Johnson trying to live to 7 million. COVID has changed this industry. And this is where it's all about calories in versus calories out crew on Instagram are going to have a big fucking wake-up call in the next couple of years. Because people are wanting to avoid diabetes or to move better and feel better. And we saw the rise of more, less bodybuilding training and more like hybrid athletes. High Rocks rise. Then we've got the health guys rise. If you look at the people in the health space now, they're not bodybuilders. They are Peter Attia. They are Brian Johnson. They are Rhonda Patrick. They are Tim Spector, whether you like him or loathe him, right? They are, what's that fucking idiotic woman? Glucose Goddess. Have you noticed these are the people that are on all the podcast circuits right now? It's not John Jewett. It's not Dorian Yates anymore. So that gives an inkling here. So maybe start asking questions about health and see where they want to be, and that could tie into something here. Before I go into like specific goal setting, anyone want to open the floor to that? Anyone got anything to add to that? No worries, man. No? Okay. Kane, what did you want to go over in goal setting? What do you want help with specifically? Is he still there? There he is.
I think more just how to do it more long term. So I guess someone's going to stay longer.
Okay.
So we see more future, I guess.
Cool. Sweet. All right. So you're looking not in like the initial one. They've achieved a fat loss target. They're looking for what's next.
I think potentially from the beginning. as well. So it's like I've had a few people that do a month and stop, even though they're making progress. So it might be a thing where it's like,
Okay,
how do you
sweet.
go about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go through that. I'm going to do this on the spreadsheet because I think that makes more sense. So that's not the right one. Let's look at the master sheet. Now I'm going to use the master sheet. You can do the same thing on whatever app you use. Obviously, some apps are going to be better at doing this than others. So essentially what I'll do, let me just take this out. Cool. So essentially what I'll do, and we'll place this as a body composition client, but as we get to the secondary section, it'll become more performance related for Friso as well. So like this is the process, and I'm going to go through this on online, but you can it's an easy parallel to one-to-one, right? So when I get a new client, first thing I'll do is I'll have my sit-down conversation with them, so my pre-sales call. My pre-sales call will go through the past, future, present model. So for people who are newer to this course who don't know what the past, future, present model is, we're going to dive into the past. My goal is to ask as many questions as I need to find out what really inspires them, what's the real reason they don't like where they're at. So it's going to be asking more follow-up questions to get to the point where they feel, oh God, I hate how I look, or I hate how I feel, or what's the pain point, right? For Friso, it's like, what is the pain point of why they want to be better at football, right? As opposed to, I want to be fitter. Cool, let's do that. It's like, run me through how it feels right now. Like where are you in comparison to your peers, right? How does it feel when you're gassed playing football? Okay, why is it that it's important for you to change that, right? So we dive into that. We want to we keep asking questions. It might take one question. Some people will burst into tears as soon as you go, hey, tell me what you hear. My partner hates how I look. And some people are like, what do you want? Lose some weight. Why? Cuz. Okay. And what go into that cuz for me. Oh, I should think I'd be more confident. Okay, and is confidence something you've always struggled with? Oh yeah, ever since I was a kid. Oh, if you don't mind me asking, could you tell me a little bit about what started that? Oh, nothing big. I was bullied a little bit. Oh, that must have been really, really hard. Do you reckon that's affected you as an adult? Oh yeah, a little bit. I don't really show up in business meetings. Okay, and how does that make you feel? Feel unaccomplished. Right, now we're fucking getting somewhere, right? So we find that thing, we tick that box, cross. Then I'll move into the future. So I start to delve into where do you want to be? How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? How do you want to behave? How do you want to perform? What we want to do with this section is paint this image of where they are. So like they're right now, they're currently sitting in the bit they don't like about themselves because you've brought this out of them. And you're painting this image of this thing that inspires them. So it is, I want to I'd love to be that kind of person that gets up in the morning and goes for a run. I'd love to be that person that was like less than 10% body fat. And this is where you could use the goal setting tracker, go, okay, where do you reckon you are now? I think I'm probably about here on 25%. Where would you like to be? Oh, I would love to be somewhere around here, around 6, 7. Okay, cool. And like, how would you want to feel at 6 or 7%? Oh, I'd like to feel energetic. Let's put aside right now where that's realistic. I just want them to, what I'm trying to do is in their head, think about the future version themselves. You know, when you like walk past a Bentley or expensive car or expensive hotel and you imagine yourself like the rich bastard. That's what I want from them with the body they're getting. In their head, they're kind of going, oh God, I can't wait to be there. They're picturing themselves there. When you feel you've got that, you go, okay, tell me why you're not like that already. And they're going to tell you your barriers. So that's that first call, right? And then we'll like, when we kind of get into this, whether it's the kickstart call or whether it's that first session, we want to map that out. So let's say right now you thought you were 89 kilos and you thought you were 25%. And then you said you wanted to be 8%, right? Okay, cool. So we put that in and I go, right. Normally, we recommend losing 1% of our body weight per week. This will get you a good return on investment. Notice the words I'm using. A return on your investment. That inspires confidence, right? Whilst also not making the diet so hard to stick to, so you can still manage your job, your training, and everything else. Now, based off that, it's going to take you around 20 weeks to get to that goal, and it's going to mean you're going to need to get to about 72, 73 kilos. This now paints belief. They might be thinking 89 kilos. They might think 8% body fat is just this dream that they can't get. This person that doesn't exist. If we can map out in 20 weeks, if you just tick just 0.8, 0.9 per week, you'll be there in 5 months. Like, oh my God, could I actually do that? It makes it real, right? And then I go, okay, how does that sound to you? And if they go, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Fantastic. That's your goal. And this is really important. Before we get into the semantics and the objective bit of goal setting, if they go, oh, yeah, I will always question a hesitation. And this is why it's important to like do this on either a call or in person and be like, okay, what makes you hesitant? And they might say something like, oh, I just thought it'd be a bit quicker. Let's use that as an example. Okay. We could aim for 1.5% drop per week, and it would take 13 weeks, but you would need to do all of this stuff. Right? Do you feel you can keep this up? And some people are going to be like, yeah, I can do that. Okay. In my head, I'm like, you probably can't, but it's your goal, your journey. I'm just going to keep you on it, push you really fucking hard, and then throw in diet breaks and refeeds when I feel necessary because it's quite aggressive. But they might go, oh, I've got my brother's birthday next week. And I'm going to Ibiza the month after that. I'm like, okay. Well, how about we start with 1%? And then we can always speed it up later. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So now you've got that target. We come into our timeline. V, does your timelines look something like this, but obviously in app form and a bit more swanky? You're muted, dude.
I keep forgetting this. So yeah, we have a graph like in the body profit itself.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
we do use this one as well, the Excel sheet right now. You're showing me the above one.
Mm-hmm.
So we do use those ones to show the images where they need to be or where they want to go. And every 14 days, once the timelines keeps going down, otherwise, what's the current goal?
Yeah.
And their weight loss is matching or not, or
Yeah.
where they need to be, we will say in 14 days, in body
Perfect.
fat percentage wise and weight wise.
Perfect. By the way, do you know how
Yeah.
long it took me to rebuild this from scratch? Because I was so worried that I didn't want to use any spreadsheets that UP gave me that I had to build my one from scratch. It was so difficult.
Okay. Yeah, this is actually better than what we are using right now because at least it shows the expectations from what is expected in order to lose 1.5%
It's not going to
weight
be
loss.
perfect.
Actually,
It's not going to be perfect, but it just gives them something where they're not kind of expecting to kind of like eat 3 cheesecakes a day and lose the weight they're expecting to.
Yeah.
So now we've got 20 weeks.
It gives their idea. So what needs to be done?
Yeah. So we've got this. Now it counts down, right? So now we've got this countdown. So what we want to do, if people are getting a month in and then they're dropping off cane during that motivation dip, which is normal at about the 4 to 6 week mark, everyone has a bit of a motivation dip. The novelty has dropped off of the transformation or anything. And this is the same with Rizzo with you. They'll be really excited about a performance goal, and on week 4 to 6, they kind of lose that point. Every one of you will feel the harder time in that 4 to 8 week mark. The goal now is one, making sure the clients are aware that that's going to come, so they don't freak out and start dropping off the plan too much. Like, look, this first 4 weeks, you're going to be fucking flying. Understand that about the 6 to 8 week mark, you might find the motivation starts to drop off, or you're coming into this point. Just be aware of this. This is normal, right? When things are new, we're more excited about them. If you can get through this phase and keep ticking the boxes at the other side, you'll be flying. Because it takes about 8 weeks to really see visual changes in anyone, unless they're already very, very lean. So if they get through that and they get to like week 9 or 10 and they start to see the changes, then they're hooked. You've just got to get them through this middle patch, right? So having something like creates urgency. Every week they're counting down. We have 10 weeks to go. We have 8 weeks to go. How do we make today valuable? And then when you're going through the data, you want to always refer back to data when you're having conversations with people. Always. The first thing a client comes into a session with you one-to-one, you should not be going, let's talk about your split score, unless they've specifically asked to talk about the split score. The first thing come in, right, let's see where we are in relation to our target. What are you doing this week? How are we nailing this? If every session comes in with a clear focus, if I come into a session with Kane, every session with Kane is about the goal, they're more likely to take action on said goal. If they feel like these sessions are, we have a chat, we train, it's very easy to lose that drive. right? So when we go into it, whether it's an online check-in, where we look over the data, I start with, let's say I was your client, you were my client, Kane. Hey, Kane, thanks for the check-in, dude. So we aimed here to be 88.1, we're at 76.8, way ahead of target. First sentence, right? Everything refers back to that. If you're behind target, okay, so we're aiming for 88.1, we're at 88. So, we're aiming for 88.3. So we're a little bit behind target. Let's dive into why that is. And then we look through the data, we identify what the struggles might be. Let me just get the chat box up. Was very nearly. Yeah, but I don't do it enough. Nick does it more often. And Nick, you like the stuff that Nick does, so that's cool. It's probably a good fit. So like when it comes to like that, you kind of go, okay, right. Like, okay, in this example here, we've noticed hunger's being an issue. Okay, cool. What happens when you're hungry? Run me through it. Run me through how that feels. You notice like every bit of conversation is referring back to the goal. So we don't ever get complacent. That's the big thing. And people still will. But that's the conversation stuff with this. No worries, Kane. And then moving on to the quarterly stuff, which might answer Frizz's question. I struggle to making a roadmap, go on from a client, be better, feel better performance. Right, cool. So with that, it's like, how do we set tangibles with that? So what I would look at here, we've got the initial assessment. So I'll run through the initial assessment. So we've got squat, hands behind the head. We've got the dowel, hinge assessment. We've got the overhead range assessment, and we've got a front plank assessment. These are our main ones. And then we'll move into our workout assessment. So split squat, row, incline hyper, push up, and then a VO2 max test, right? So from that, what are you going to gain when you work with a client? You're going to work out which of these big lifts are workable and which ones aren't. Now, whether they're workable ever, depends on the structure, depends on the individual anatomy, depends on what they want to do. Have to back squat if you don't want to back squat. But you're going to see limitations and stuff. Things you can fix, things you work around, things you can't. So your goal then, how do we create an objective goal for this? So let's say someone's squat is really terrible. They want to squat. Let's try and work up to, over the next few months, get some form of back squat, either safety bar, barbell squat. If they can squat, where are they now? Let's say they're at 50 kilos. Let's see if we can set that at like 65, 70. And yes, these are relatively arbitrary, right? But there's the thing, it's really difficult with strength goals to set so many factors. It's very hard to say you will be at 80. I would set like, where's do you think is realistic in your head that they can get to? And then set it a little bit lower for the first one. So they fucking smash through it. And they're like, oh, Frieza's fucking amazing. We set a 65 kilo target, my goal, I hit 70. And then depending on how your relationship with the client, you can make them more ambitious as you go. Right? So this one will kind of give you a movement capabilities. Then, once you've come into the quarter review, which is this one, we can now start to play around with things that are a little bit more specific. Right? So, Fizzo, do you know your deadlift maxes for any rep range?
For myself?
Yeah.
142 1 rep max.
142? 1 rep max. Do you know your squat?
Yeah, 135 1 rep max.
Oops.
There's 1 rep.
There's a couple of there's a slight like 2 kilo formula issue in this, and I can't work out what it is. It's close enough, but it's really annoying me. Bench press?
100.
For 1?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what you can do for chin-ups? That's me with my body weight, but...
My neighbor is going to be training.
That's right.
What you mean, like my body weight plus the weight?
You could either do body weight plus weight for low reps, or you could do how many you could do at your body weight. Works for me.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So you could either do how many you could do for your body weight, or...
Oh, no, I can do
rep with
my body weight plus...
Either fine.
My body weight plus 35, 375, 1 rep max.
375.
My body weight is 70 kilos.
70 kilos plus 35. So 105.
Yeah. It's 375.
It won't be 375, right? If you're 70 kilos plus 35, that's 105.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what your overhead press is? Doesn't have to be seated.
No.
Okay, that's fine. Do you know roughly what it would be? Just guess for now.
I think maybe 80 or something.
80.
1 rep
Cool.
max.
Cool. Do you know incline bench?
I do a set of 8 for
Okay, that's fine.
30.
8 for 30.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at that's really off. Why is that the case? Okay, I need to work what that formula is. But let's just put 1 for 90 here. 80 here. It's probably more realistic. And then front squat, do you know it?
Think 100.
Okay. So 100.
I never measured it, but just
Okay,
think.
cool. So so now we've got our 1 rep maxes roughly here, right? How old are you?
I'm 24.
24. Right? So now we've got rough heart rate zones for you to work in. We've got rough 1 rep maxes. Now, if you come down here, what we'll notice here is our strength ratios. So what's the biggest discrepancies here? So if I look at the current, we were looking at 75. Our incline bench, and obviously we estimated that one, and our deadlift are our weakest link. Actually, no, ignore it. Front squat and incline press are our 2 weakest lifts based on strength ratios. So these strength ratios are a mix of Tom Hibbert's, Ben Patrick's, Charles Poliquin's, and some of my own research. And the deadlift is set on 2 times body weight. So everything goes off the deadlift or the bench press, right? So now if you made your next block, you can then talk to your clients of like, look, in our next block, we're going to focus on bringing up the front squat and the incline barbell press. That's priorities for our strength. We bring that up, we do this again, and see if we're any closer to those strength ratios, right? And we can do the same thing here if we put the current 8 rep max in here. So let's say we had a 8 kilo trap 3 raise. We know we're at 68 reps. So this is like remedial lifts for the shoulder. We can do some remedial lifts for the hip and lower body, remedial lifts for the trunk and spine. So
can I change it? Can I change the exercises in this?
Yes, just don't do it on the master copy. Make a copy of the whole spreadsheet and do that. Don't change this one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
the only thing you can say with this is that the actual ratios might not be the same. So these ratios are based off these exercises. So these percentages. So if you like your targets in terms of weight, so for example, your target here would be 11 kilos for a trap 3 raise, 17 kilo bicep curl for 8. Right? We haven't put your body weight in here though, but we will do. What's your body weight?
70.
Yeah, that will change everything. Actually, hold on. Now we're talking. Now we're realizing you're really strong. So actually, if you look at this, look how you're pretty much over everything. Front squat is still the weak link. Everything else is pretty much bang on the money. I'd still probably focus on your incline press next, but front squat is bang on the money here, right? Now we need an 8 kilo trap 3 raise, much more manageable, right? 12 kilo bicep curl for 8. That's probably realistic, right? U plus 20 kilos on the dip, right? 25 kilos on the dip. This just gives you some rough targets to shoot for. So then in the next block, I would then go, right, if you were my client, I would go front squat and then incline press. This is your target for our next block. And I will build a training program to bring up these 2 lifts. So it'll probably be like an upper blow or split. And then let's say, okay, physique focus. So maybe you want to build some muscle too. Maybe it's not your main goal, but why not? Or if you didn't give a shit, then okay, what muscle groups are we going to bring up for these 2? Probably going to bring up something like quads. And we're probably going to bring up things like either delts or pecs or triceps, whatever we think the weak part of the bench press is. Let's say it's delts. So that becomes our accessory lifts. And then that's where we set it. We make a block. From that block, we work on just adding load and progressive overload. So if we're using the spreadsheet, I know you don't, but I would just keep an eye on total tonnage each week, see if it's progressing, make a note if things progressing. If something's not progressing, you want to look into why. So you might go, okay, I've noticed you're not progressing on this, right? I want you to add a set next week, or I want you to increase the load next week, or I want you to send me a video to see if this is execution based next week. And then once you do that, over time, you just focus on that for the block. You get to the end of 12 weeks, you put everything back in here again, and you go, right, let's see where we're at. And you can see overall improvements. Let's see your front squat is now 100% of your target. Now what's your weak link?
So what do I do with people that cannot? I still have also clients that basically want to be fit again. So
Start with the movement stuff and define what fit means.
Yeah. Okay, check. So because, for example, I cannot do if they cannot back squat or bench press or deadlift, then this is not
true. So
fine.
I would look at then, like, you can use it as a rough guide with like an RDL. Like, how close do you want to get with these things? I think the main lifts you can have some form of flexibility on with this, but this is where, if that's the case, and again, this depends. No one has to do any of these things, but if you look at the initial assessment, right? When we look at here, we can work up these levels. Let's say the squat's unworkable. Your next step isn't trying to give them a 100-kilo back squat. Now we've maybe started on a hack, and we try to progress the hack over time, right? And then your goal, if they want to just get fitter to them means I want to build muscle, because some people, when they say fitter, they mean I want to look better naked, even though that's not fitter. For another person, fitter might mean I want to run a marathon. So you want to find out what that is. And then I want to then go into then my next goal is, okay, let's try some squats with a 30-degree heel wedge. And let's go through that progression tally in here. So, and then let's go, okay, let's do the same thing on a 20-degree heel wedge. And let's see how close we can get them to a squat. And you could run that for a year. Does that make sense? So we could just focus on getting stronger in the current lift over the block, and then maybe progress to a slightly more advanced movement pattern. And then do the same thing again. So you might go, okay, now we're going to do a goblet squat with a 30-degree heel. Get that stronger. Next, we're going to do a Zercher bar squat with a 30-degree heel. Get that stronger. And then we're going to do a safety bar squat with a 30-degree heel. Get that stronger.
Yeah, because I think the plus point with this is you involve them more in the process, because now I still drive outcomes. So we still get progressions in weight or movement capabilities or VO2 max or whatever. But I feel like it's more in my head, and they're like, oh yeah, I feel fit. Yeah, I feel myself stronger. Yeah, it's good. Okay, nice. But now you can, so to say, get a little bit more objective also,
Dial in weekly outcomes and realize that bigger outcomes, whether it's a 20-week fat loss goal or whether that's a quarterly strength goal, are going to be a little bit more
future-based.
Wishy-washy, right? And I don't, when I say wishy-washy, I know it's
because you also have people that say, periodization is it comes from all the Olympic lifts and all the athletes and everything, where you have more things in your control. And some people say also, like, a reactive-based programming, like weekly, if you drive the outcomes that you want to drive, is also like a strategy that. But then I
think it's a strategy. If you're so focused on reactivity, it's a strategy as a coach that's going to be really difficult. When you phone up a doctor for a GP appointment and you go, can I book in for next week? And they go, no, sorry, you've got to call up on Tuesday morning and try and book in on the day. When you look at that, I don't know if you get that the same in the Netherlands, but in the UK, if I wanted to book a doctor appointment for Friday, I couldn't do it. I'd have to ring up Friday morning and say, have you got any spaces for me today?
Yeah.
And I look at the doctor and I'm like, how the fuck do they manage their diary? Like, if I only did PT sessions on the day, my life would be chaos. This is reactive program design, right? So, like, yes, it means you can work around everything that comes up in someone's day, but it means you have no structure and you're being reactive with life. You can't work on the business. You relying on client comes to you this week. Oh shit, I need to change the program. So I want you should build programs with a rough idea of periodization, so you can plan long term.
Then be reactive,
and then adapt. Yeah, and then adapt on the week, right? If I have to change the stimulus because we're in a strength phase where a client flies off to do a 12-hour long haul flight, I'll do a volume session or two. It's like build out with a rough idea and then dial in with the day-to-day. And this is where performance coaches,
you build the programs like you program them from like 3 months out and then all the way back, like every week.
Yeah. So I'll write a 3-month program with like 2-3 blocks in it, and I will then adjust as each week goes along. Oh, I can't train this week. I'm on holiday. Okay, cool. We'll take a deload. Let's ramp up next week. Or something happens and I go in a hotel gym. Okay, we'll do a higher rep workout and I'll throw in something there. So it's like we don't want to get caught up in where we feel that because everything feels that we need a target. If you have 0 long-term targets, people don't retain. But if you're so bound to your long-term targets, you lose the personalization, and you get caught up so much in, I don't know precisely where my client's going to be. I don't know for certain in 3 months whether my client's going to be able to butt squat with a barbell on the back. You don't know anything in 3 months. They could be hit by a car in 2 months. They could lose a leg in a month, right? We don't know any of that. So it's like, start with a big, work back. I've got to shoot for a call, but does that answer your question, Frizo?
Yeah.
B, anything quickly that you need help with? You muted again, dude.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, we'll chat later anyway, yeah?
100%, yeah.
Carol, anything you need, dude?
All good.
We've got a call on Thursday, right?
That's it. I moved, yeah?
No problem. Catch you then. Awesome,
Perfect.
guys. Have a good one. Speak soon.